And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, kiss his family goodbye, travel thousands of miles for no other reason than to serve the people, to save their jobs, their livelihoods, their liberty, their happiness. So God made a fighter.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is on the holy roll with a new campaign ad that is absolutely cringe. It seems like a majority of this ad is a pushback against the criticism that DeSantis has faced for his disastrous approach to the COVID-19 pandemic.
God said, I need someone to be strong, advocate truth in the midst of hysteria, someone who challenges conventional wisdom and isn't afraid to defend what he knows to be right and just. So God made a fighter. God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector.
I'm not playing the whole thing, I just can't. When the f are you actually gonna read something? You wanna throw out religious? You can start with that. Read the thing. Let me help you.
Stand firm in the wake of unrelenting attacks. Look a mother in the eyes and tell her that her child will be in school.
Note that all those freedoms he was referring to had a giant caveat with them. Your choice not to wear a mask or send your kid to school when they are sick has consequences. Something that GOP ghouls like DeSantis love to talk about is all the personal responsibility until it came to the pandemic, and we were being asked to suspend our beliefs in science for an exchange of perceived freedoms. Again, I think we've been through a lot, and we really don't think about the core message here. And it's been a minute, but we all saw the madness that came out of some people trying to take a rapidly spreading disease seriously, and others that wanted to look good for Donald Trump.
God said, I need a family man. A man who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his daughter says she wants to spend her life doing what Dad does. So God made a fighter.
Mixed messaging in this commercial because what? First off, bro, you are like 5'6", okay, Ron? So if God was making a strong man, should have done something there. That's right, though. We know God didn't make you. And the fight for the people, you don't fight for the people. You fight for the interests that pad your pockets. And whatever political statement you need to make this week in order to sway your dumbass voters into whatever scheme, plot you have this week. Just like that private fucking Hurricane Ian relief fund that your wife is heading with your slush fund money, which is all, by the way, going into private companies contracted now by DeSantis around the state. Seems a little against the Sunshine Law.
People like Ron DeSantis used the deaths of thousands of Americans and said it wasn't a big deal, that the ideas of freedoms were framed around people not caring about the well-being of others. But that apparently makes him holy and the eighth wonder of the world, molded by God's hands himself. As a reminder, Ron DeSantis wasn't exactly an honest kind of guy when it came down to it on COVID. A Florida paper, the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, had reported on the type of language DeSantis utilized when it came to COVID deaths. That same language that basically blamed healthcare workers and the Department of Health for, quote, overcounting COVID deaths. Even members of his own team stated on Twitter that they didn't believe the number of deaths and falsely claimed that there were fewer deaths when records showed otherwise. But again, when you frame caution and listening to medical professionals as woke or attacking freedoms, well, the sharks smell that blood in the water and take off with that new framework of conversation. And again, who can we really trace back to the origins of this medical malpractice? Donald Trump. Remember the bleach in the skin comments? The taking off his mask when he had COVID right after a trip to the hospital, by the way? He just wasn't too worried about how bad COVID could be, only how it made him look bad is how he reacted to it. And then came the anger towards medical experts like Dr. Fauci, again, because it made Trump look bad. And all the little MAGA ducklings followed in step with the lies, including Ron DeSantis. Now, a majority of us weren't happy with the COVID situation. How could we be? masks were a nuisance. We couldn't leave the house. We all got a little stir crazy and tired of it. But there were lives at risk, and there were people that died, and a lot of people suffered only to have DeSantis write them off. And there was science, developing science on a brand new strain of a virus that we had never dealt with before. But don't expect nuance from a MAGA GOP fanboy like Ron. If you want the kernel of truth in this ad, note that he included having to say goodbye to elderly loved ones in nursing homes, and then recall the amount of those people who also got COVID and died because of it. Keep your Bible thumping to yourself, Ron, because it doesn't look like your strategy on COVID was very pro-life, and that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.